Welcome to Understanding Perspectives. On today's installment, I'm going to be talking about four passages of Scripture and how people understand these passages from both the eternal conscious torture perspective and the conditional immortality perspective. I'm going to start with Matthew 25:41, which says, "Then he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels.'" And I'm going to start with talking about the eternal conscious torture perspective. People who believe in this is one of the verses they would cite in support of their view because it talks about how the eternal fire is prepared for the devil and his angels, and that the people are going to be cast into that same eternal fire. And if the fire is eternal, then it only makes sense that he would be talking about the experience of the person cast in that fire as being eternal also. And they also would point to Revelation 20, verse 10, that says, "And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever." I'm going to continue and read for the next 4 or 5 verses. "Then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it. From his presence earth and sky fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Then another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged by what were written in the books, according to what they had done. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one of them according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire." So they would point out that in the Matthew passage, it says that it's eternal fire, where prepared for the devil and his angels. And in the Revelation passage, that the devil, the beast, and the false prophet are all going to be tormented day and night forever and ever. So they say, look, it's plain. The devil's going to be tortured forever and ever in eternal fire. And the people who are also thrown to the lake of fire, it only makes sense that they would endure the same punishment as the devil. And it's just that simple. And why are we talking about this? And so the people who believe in conditional immortality, when they look at these verses, they're considering not only these verses, but also the whole rest of Scripture. And they see a lot of passages that talk about the end of the wicked in terms that sound like death and destruction and perishing and being killed. And they're like, well, how should we fit this all together? Do I have to interpret all these other passages that sound like death as meaning you can't ever die, but maybe you wish you could because you're going to be being consciously tortured forever? And so they're like, well, how should we make sense of this? And so some of them have realized that this is not the only place that the Bible talks about eternal fire. In Matthew 25:41, that I already read to you, it says it was eternal fire is prepared for the devil and his angels. But maybe they also read in Jude 7, which says, "Just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities, which likewise indulged in sexual immorality and pursued unnatural desire, serve as an example by undergoing a punishment of eternal fire." So they see that Sodom and Gomorrah, which are cities that were already destroyed, that they serve as an example to us for what the punishment of eternal fire is. And so if they would ask the question, does it make any sense for Jude, who wrote this, to have used them as an example of what's already happened if what he's actually talking about is that they're going to be tortured forever in hell? And so he's using this future judgment as an example to show what it's going to be like in the same future judgment for the other people he's talking to. And so none of the people that he's talking to could actually see the example that he was referring to because it hasn't happened yet, even still. And so shouldn't we rather, from this conditional immortality perspective, shouldn't we rather see that Jude was talking about the punishment that Sodom and Gomorrah already endured, the punishment of eternal fire, and that past judgment, which precedes, by hundreds of years, the time when he was writing this, and he was looking back saying, this is an example of what eternal fire is like. And so this is what it's going to be like for you if you continue in your sin. And so they would then point you back to Genesis 19, which is where the original account of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And in Genesis 19, verses 27 and 28, it says, and Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the valley. And he looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace. And so they would say that Sodom and Gomorrah are not, the people in Sodom and Gomorrah are not still being tortured forever and ever at the place where this took place. Even the following day, when Abraham went and looked to see what it was like, it was just smoke coming up. And none of those people were still down there. You can go over there today where the Dead Sea is, and you can see where Sodom and Gomorrah used to be. And there's nobody living there. Nobody's being tormented forever and ever. And so if that is an example of what it's going to be like for people to endure eternal fire, and if eternal fire is what was prepared for the devil and his angels, according to Jesus in Matthew 25:41, then how should we understand this passage in Revelation 20, verse 10? Because it says that the devil who had deceived them was thrown to the lake of fire and sulfur where the beast and false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. And so the conditional immortality view is like, well, it seems like maybe these things are, or they have to face this, possible conflict of what they're reading here. And so then maybe they look into it a little bit deeper and they go to their concordances and they find that this phrase, tormented day and night forever and ever, that the forever and ever part is, and I can't speak Greek, so I don't know how to say this properly, but it's the same word essentially repeated, aionios, aionios, and it means ages upon ages, or ages of ages, something like that. But people translate it normally as forever and ever. And so they think, well, maybe it will be a very long time, ages of time, that it's going to be the devil and the false prophet and the beast be tormented. But they see that they're going to suffer the punishment of eternal fire, just like Sodom and Gomorrah did. So maybe this forever and ever translation is not the best one. And so maybe it is actually the case that all the wicked will be destroyed, including the devil and the false prophet and the beast, if the false prophet and the beast are even real entities that are like individuals and not representing, groups, which some people would argue that. But that's a side topic that I won't get off in today. So, but from the perspective of the conditional immortality, the very connection of this eternal fire between Matthew 25:41 and Jude 1:7 and Revelation 20:10 is the thing that persuades them that the wicked are actually destroyed, or it's among the things that persuade them this way. It's because eternal fire is associated with Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's what is threatened to us and the devil. They see that it does mean just destruction, and that's why most of them think that even the devil will be destroyed and that he won't be tormented forever and ever. So hopefully that all makes sense. If you found this video helpful, subscribe and like the video and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. God bless you.